Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. You know, the other day I was wondering what I was going to do for my video for Monday that you're watching right now. And suddenly, up on my iPad came the November issue of Model Railroader. I get the digital edition just to save space. And so I took a look at the DCC corner column to see how it came out. And I was suddenly reminded that I needed to do a video showing how I installed the decoder in this Baldwin Shark locomotive. I have used a LokSound decoder in here. And what I want to do today is give you an idea of how that LokSound decoder sounds, how I went about doing the installation. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, before we get started, I want to ask you to take a second to subscribe. Click on the subscribe box right here, and when that comes up, click on the little bell right next to it and click all. That way you'll be notified every time that I upload a new video. So I'm asking you to do this, help me grow the channel and keep providing you the kind of videos that you've come to expect from the DCC guide. Thanks a lot now. Now, these are a pretty neat locomotive, you know. They were made in the 1950s for a very short period, really, and they weren't all that successful. Yes, not at all. And they didn't sell a lot of them. The B&O had them, the New York Central, and several others. And you know, they used them for a number of years, and then they sold them off to other railroads, so they had secondary owners as well. And unfortunately, there aren't any, very many of them left laying around. I think there's maybe two somewhere out stored somewhere for many years. And hopefully one of these days they'll be restored. Now in this particular case, I painted it for the Virginian in Ohio. Now Alan McClellan, who owned the Virginian in Ohio, did not originally include these in his roster. But I went ahead and filled in an empty spot in the roster with number 267. Now, one thing I do want to point out about these, about this particular model here, are the horns. Now, they can be something of a discussion point because I'm not sure what they are. Because there were two types of horns that were very similar. There was the Leslie A200, which was used on a lot of early diesel locomotives. It was used on the GG1s, for example, on the Pensy. And it typically had a long, thin bell portion here, but they were mounted like this in opposing positions on a lot of early first-generation locomotives. The other similar one that's often confused with the Leslie is the Wabco E2. And it was a little bit shorter, had a similar sound, and so it's often confused. On this particular model, I used the Wabco E2 sound in the LokSound package. So that's what this one sounds like. And, you know, to be honest with you, I also tried out the Leslie A200, and I really couldn't tell the difference between them. At any rate, these are what are typically called your standard black type air horns. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to pop the shell now and give you an idea of how I went about installing the LokSound decoder in here. And I'll refer you back to other videos that I've done on loading the sound files into LokSound decoders and also programming those sound files, because you know it's a fairly straightforward project to do once you get the sound package uploaded. And remember, if you decide to do this and you purchase a LokSound decoder, make sure, always ask the dealer to load the sound package that you want, because these come with just a plain generic diesel locomotive sound on them, and therefore you need to always upload a sound. Boy, that steam locomotive behind me keeps making a lot of noise. I forgot to turn him off before I started here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll focus down here on the workbench and get started with this project. I wrote about this, as I said, in the November issue of Model Railroader in my DCC corner column. And this model here is a Baldwin Shark Baldwin locomotive produced in the 1950s for a short time. It wasn't all that successful of a locomotive. Basically, it had a 608A prime mover. So that's the one you would look up when you get ready to install a sound package in a LokSound decoder, or when you are picking out a wow sound or a Soundtrax decoder to install in this locomotive. Now, I was kind of skeptical about the potential performance of these Baldwin locomotives, but in the end, they really do perform quite well. So let me take the shell off, and I'll show you how I went about the installation, and then we'll give it a sound test. So I've already taken the screws out to make it quicker. Okay, so it just pops right off here. There's basically 4 screw holes, as you can see here, these posts right here, where the screws come up and engage the shell and hold it in place. So it's a simple matter to just unscrew those 4 screws here in the bottom. They're located on each side of the tank, and then you can just pop the shell right off. You probably will have to remove the front coupler, which I've taken off already. Okay, so how did I go about doing this? Let me zoom in just a little bit more. There we go. And as you can see, what I have here, I've installed a Decoder Buddy Mini. And, I went over how to install these. Let me go ahead and pop this off so I can show you this better. I have to work these up slowly. Okay, so there's the Decoder Buddy Mini. And you can see where I've attached the pickup wires from the truck and the 2 wires that go to my headlight here, which got bent when I took it back out of the shell. And the same thing back here, the 2 wires from the rear truck. And since there's no rear headlight, there's no connection there. And then we have the contacts for the motor here. And that's all there is to it. So this is a super easy installation. I have this positioned on top of the motor using some double stick foam tape. You can see that white line right there. That's the double stick foam tape, and it sits right there on top of the motor quite nicely. And the great thing about the Decoder Buddy Mini is that it fits in this area between these 4 posts. A standard long decoder will not fit in this opening, and the larger Decoder Buddies will not either. But the Mini fits in here perfect, and since there's only 1 light that you're installing here, you don't need all the extra light contacts on the larger Decoder Buddies. The other thing that I've got installed here is this speaker. Now this is one of the slightly larger speakers from Sugar Cube Audio Systems, and I covered those in a previous video, and if I have room I'll put a link to all of these previous videos that I'm mentioning at the end of the video. Okay, so on the end screen there will be links to the Decoder Buddy videos and the previous video on this one, assuming I can find it. Okay, so, and these are the 2 wires right here that go back from the Decoder Buddy to the speaker. So everything is right here. You can do all your wiring before you go about installing the decoder itself, and then it simply pops right on like that. Makes an installation very quick and very easy. Now the other thing I'll point out here, I used these little golden white surface mount LEDs that come from China, and you can find these on eBay. And as I've said previously, I'm not going to give you a specific dealer to order these from. The reason being, these dealers come and go left and right. The one that I bought these from, I checked, he's no longer there. So all you have to do is do a search on eBay for golden white surface mount LED pre-wired, and that will come up. You'll get a dozen or more different vendors that offer these, and pick the one that's cheapest, okay? That's the very simple, easy way to go about this. So it's a golden white surface mount LED. It comes pre-wired with a 1000 ohm resistor. And as you can see here, I've just left an extension so that I can put this up into the headlight casting. And on the headlight, and I don't think I can get down in here to show you this, but yeah, there it is. Okay, let's take a look down in here. And you can see here the styrene headlight casting here where it comes through the shell. And then right on the back of it, I took a piece of heat shrink tubing and put it on there with an opening. And what I do is I just feed the surface mount LED down into this opening, and it fits right up in here, and that prevents, light bleed back into the cab. So it makes a great way to install these. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, and then we're going to move over to the layout, and I'll give you a listen to how this particular sound project sounds with a LokSound decoder. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to run through the startup sequence and the shutdown afterwards. We'll do the prime movers, and we'll move it around a bit, and I'll blow the horn, and we'll listen to the bell and any other sounds that it happens to make along the way. I can't go far on this because I'm in the midst of ballasting the main yard on the lower level, so just about every other locomotive on the layout is stashed up on the upper level too, and that's what I have to use in order to do this video. So unfortunately I can't run this locomotive that far. So we can run it, forward and backward a little bit. I doubt it's going to ramp up very much, but I think it's going to give you a pretty good idea of what the locomotive sounds like. So let me go ahead and get it cranked up and we'll get started. Well, if you have a Baldwin Shark locomotive stashed somewhere in your storage cabinet or even running on your layout and you want to add sound to it, consider the LokSound, but also be aware that LokSound makes their 4 prime decoders that have the Baldwin sound packages on them and a large selection of bells and air horns, so you're bound to get the right one there. And Soundtrax also makes their own decoder, a Tsunami 2 decoder, that has the Baldwin sounds. So there's, at least 3 different options readily available to you, and most of them you can go online and listen to samples of the sounds before you make your choice. So give that a try, and have a good week, and we'll see you here on Friday with another installment of building a switching layout. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do this week. I think I'm going to go ahead and proceed with installing the registration pin dials so that we can mate these 2 up. But I've made a change in my mind anyway, about using the legs. So we might actually go ahead and start with doing installing legs on these. I just am not sure yet. So see you on Friday for that video. In the meantime, stay healthy, wear your mask, and have a great week. Bye now.